and welcome to the Raising Killin podcast. My name is Marsh Naidu, and tonight I am joined by none other than Rachel Lovell. Rachel is a dedicated public servant and advocate for civic participation in Weakley County, Tennessee. She has served as an election commissioner with the Weakley County Election Commission for the past 5 years. And she previously served as well for 5 years on the counting board. Rachel is a dedicated mom. She works in the healthcare industry, and she brings a practical, real-world perspective to conversations about voting, balancing a demanding career, family life, and community leadership. Rachel, welcome to the Raising Killin podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Listen, I met you about maybe a month ago now, maybe a month and a half in Weakley County, where you did a presentation at the Martin Public Library regarding voting. And in those 20 minutes you spoke to us, I learned more about voting than I ever thought I previously knew. So, Rachel, we are in a really tumultuous moment right now. Today's date is May the 11th, and last week the Tennessee Congressional Maps were redrawn, and effectively Memphis was cracked into 3 districts. And I'm in West Tennessee. Rachel, do you live in Weakley County?
I do, yes. I do live in Weakley County. I live in Martin, Tennessee.
Okay.
So a lot of Weakley County's claim to fame is the University of Tennessee at Martin. So that's what brought me to West Tennessee, and that's what has kept me here.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about that redrawn map and how it affects Northwest Tennessee itself, Rachel?
Oh, yeah, certainly. So if you're not familiar with the redrawn maps, anybody listening, definitely pull it up because they did, as you mentioned, they took Memphis and broke it into 3, cracked it into 3. But I feel like Northwest Tennessee is probably one of the districts that was most largely affected, because when they redrew that, rural Northwest Tennessee is now being lumped into parts of Memphis and also parts of like Williamson County, Franklin. So they kind of did almost like a U shape, where they went at the very bottom of the state, they went all the way up to the top of the state where we are, and then kind of came back down around Jackson and a little bit into that Williamson County area. So that is a huge swath. Again, you know, you think of Memphis, you think of suburbs of Nashville. Those are very urban, areas, metro areas. Those areas are going to face very different issues than we do in rural Northwest Tennessee. And so having the right representation, I really don't know what that's going to look like in the future. I hope, we hope that they don't forget about us up here, but that may or may not be the case.
Honestly, we had our conversation scheduled for this day a few weeks ago. So, and really the main reason I wanted to talk to you at that time, Rachel, was how do we mobilize as a community to get folks out and vote. However, I think it's important for us to note that these changes happened so quickly.
So fast.
And there wasn't a referendum. There wasn't really any consultation of, the people of Tennessee. Would you feel comfortable perhaps giving us like a backdrop, as to what has occurred over this last week?
Sure. So this, the change that's happened in Tennessee basically stems from the Supreme Court ruling. They basically, in Louisiana, they rolled back voting rights. They effectively said that, voting is not based on, the Voting Rights Act is no longer needed because we don't split things racially anymore. Okay, so that was sort of the basis of that. Well, immediately, as soon as that came out, Tennessee wasn't, the House was out of session. Like, they were done for the year. Immediately, they proposed an emergency session, which happened on Election Day, of all things. That emergency session convened on just last Tuesday, on Election Day in Tennessee. And they basically rushed through this redistricting plan. It was passed, again, I want to say 3 days. That may even be generous. 3 days may be generous. And it went through, not only did they debate it, it went through the Senate, and it was signed by the governor that fast. I mean, man, if only things that were half as important got passed in 3 days. It's really disappointing.
I was thinking healthcare might be a good solution.
Healthcare would be a great one. Yes, let's do that. Like, basic needs of individuals, the families that are suffering because of the higher costs of really everything right now. Healthcare is more expensive. Groceries are more expensive. Gas is more expensive. So again, families have fewer and fewer, smaller and smaller amounts of disposable income right now. But what we're concerned about is getting one more seat in the House. Where are our priorities? Like, as a state, at the state of Tennessee, where are our priorities right now? Because it just doesn't seem like it's on the people sitting around the kitchen table that they want to talk about. Like, these families that are sitting around their table, I think most families are probably not sitting around wondering what district they're in.
Talking about what district we are in, Rachel. Now, I know, Representative Kustoff, David Kustoff, was represented Tennessee Congressional District 8. Where can folks go to see who their representative is as of now? And do you perhaps have an idea of where we can go to? Or
yeah, so again, a large portion of Northwest Tennessee has now been broken up, and we are no longer in 8, we are in 6. And so our representative is now Andy Ogles, who is out of Columbia. But again, there's a lot of shakeup. It was broke up into 3s, so I definitely encourage you to get a good understanding, because we are actually, in active election. Like, this is an election year, so it's very important. Again, if you may have thought you were familiar with who your representative was at the time, this has changed so many things for so many people in the state. So definitely make sure you research your new representative. Are they running for office, and who may be running against them? And so you can find any of that information. It's my understanding that the website has now been updated, and it's GoVoteTN.gov. And that is your basic resource for, again, who's voting? What district am I in? Is my voter registration current? Because a lot of people don't realize that if you do not actively use that and vote, you can be purged from the voter rolls. So definitely make sure.
How do we check to see if we're on the voter roll?
So if you go to that site, you can actually click, there is a link that says, check my registration. If you're not, that's always where I send people first. Make sure you're registered. If only, if nothing else, just make sure you're registered, and just check and see where you sit. Again, we have a lot of local municipalities that are going to be running for office too in the August-November cycle. So again, your local elections. Some people are not familiar with that, but voting is very important, all the way down. People say the city dog catcher, but it is important all the way down to those local elections, to who is representing you and your best interests. So always check to see what if your areas are on the ballot. School boards, again, very important. A lot of us have kids, and we want to know that the people that are on the school board are representing what we want for our kids and their education. So again, check that site, make sure you are registered. If you are not registered, and it will tell you immediately, again, because you can be purged, you can click and register to vote as easy. It's almost 1, 2, 3. So that is something that the state of Tennessee does very well, is that they do make getting your voter registration very easy. It's a very simple process online.
Rachel, a few weeks ago, the SAVE Act was said not to have passed, especially for females who might have had, one or
correct, yes,
several name changes along the way. I guess, GoVoteTN.gov will keep us abridged to what's happening. But, I heard about, is it like the Purcell factor, where things are not really supposed to be changed in an election cycle? What would you call it? I don't even know.
Yeah, you're right. This is an election year.
Right.
And the fact that all of these things are happening, it's not even just in an election year. Like, for those that are unaware, redistricting typically only happens every 10 years following a census. So the fact that we are doing that mid-cycle in an election year is unprecedented. I mean, honestly, it's crazy that this is even happening right now, because typically those redistricting only happens every 10 years following a census, where they go in and review the population and then look for inequalities within the area based off of people's based on where people live on their censuses. If certain areas may grow or other areas may fluctuate and have less, then that's the purpose of the census and the actual districting, is to make sure we have even numbers. It's not to fit certain demographics. It's not to fit certain political parties, but it has been weaponized. So the fact that we are doing all of this right now in 2026, in an election year, mid-census, is wild.
Rachel, what would be, just your words of wisdom or words of advice for the average person that is listening to this podcast? What would those words of advice be?
So my word of advice is, again, for those individuals that may be feeling discouraged right now, or maybe feel like their vote doesn't count, or, this has happened and now I'm even less likely to vote because it doesn't matter. My advice to you is that your vote always matters. It always matters, because Tennessee does not have we're not a one-partisan state. We have an issue where people don't vote, and a lot of it is because of that. So what I would encourage, my words of wisdom, is to, rally, see what's happening, and stand up. You always have a voice at the ballot. Nobody can tell you how to vote. Nobody can, your vote, when you go in and you vote, unless it's a primary, obviously, because you do, you state what party you are voting for. But in a general election, no one knows how you vote. No one knows how you vote. So if you see these things and you do not like what is happening, 1, check and make sure you're registered to vote. 2, if you're not, register to vote. 3, do your homework and find candidates that you feel like hear you or support you or believe the same things you believe. Not everybody, it's not going to be a one size fits all, but someone that you think may represent you well. And then go and vote. And again, take as many people as you can with you to vote, because that's how we make change. We have to
yes, ma'am.
Stand up, and we have to organize, and we all have to vote. We cannot think that our vote does not matter, because it truly does. Again, working on the election commission, I have seen local elections decided by 1 or 2 votes. Your vote always matters.
Rachel, you have been phenomenal in encouraging, first of all, explaining to us these rapid changes that have occurred with the redistricting of our maps, but also letting us know that, hey, don't, stay motivated, stay on it, get out there and vote and let your voice be heard. I just would really like to touch base with you. I know you're coming to speak to us in Dyersburg, Tennessee, on August the 6th at the public library. However, I would love to invite you back on the podcast, perhaps sometime before the general election, which is usually around the first Tuesday of November. And I think it falls on November the 5th?
I want to say it was the 3rd, but I could be wrong. I don't know why, but I was thinking November the 3rd. Let's look. It is November the 3rd.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's the general election. Out of curiosity, when you check in and, you show your ID, and as of right now, your Tennessee state driver's license is valid, would you... Are you actually asked after you show your ID whether which ballot you want to select, whether it's like a Democratic ballot, or do you declare your party affiliation before you?
So the state of Tennessee does not require you, as of right now, when you go to register to vote, to actually declare a party. So you don't, the only time you actually have to request that is, again, if you want to vote in a primary, and then when you enter, again, you would show your ID. So the election that we just had last Tuesday, you would have showed them your ID, obviously. They would have verified your address, and then they would ask you, do you want to vote Republican or do you want to vote Democrat? And at that time, that would be when you would select one of those. Again, each major party has their own rules. We have heard the term bona fide thrown around. So again, they want to make sure that you're a quote unquote bona fide Democrat or a bona fide Republican when you go and you vote. And that basically just says that you were basically pledging allegiance to that particular party. And when you pull that to vote, that you're voting to support whatever candidates they have on the ballot. Now, in November, that is a general election. You will not be asked anything. You will see everyone on that ballot. You will see Republicans, you will see Democrats, you will see independents if you have independents. Again, everyone will be on that ballot, and you will vote your choice, and nobody will know. When you leave when you drop that ballot in that box, you are the only one that is going to know what you filled out on that.
You mentioned a really important point, and that was students who might be going away to college in the fall. What advice would you have to students that might be, for example, going to, say, to UT Knoxville, but they're from Dyersburg?
So, as a student, you have several different options when it comes to voting. As a student, you immediately have the right to request an absentee ballot. So again, if you are in Dyersburg and you are going to college in Knoxville, you're more than likely not going to drive home from Knoxville to Dyersburg on election just to vote. So in that instance, I would most definitely use that absentee ballot and, do it by mail. What I will caution is if that is an option that students want to exercise, make sure you do it very early, because not only do you have to mail it, you have to wait to get the ballot. It also it basically crosses the mail 3 times. When you mail and request it, when you get the ballot back in the mail, and then you have to mail it and send it back. So 3 times, you're kind of dealing with U.S. Postal Service. So if that is an option that you want to exercise, do it very early. And make sure that you request that from, so again, Dyersburg, you're going to contact your Dyer County Election Commission office to request that absentee ballot. Also, what you also have an option of doing, again, let's say you're going to be home on a weekend. If there's early voting and you're there, exercise that early vote and vote in person during the early voting. And the last one, which can be done, it would not allow the student to vote in Dyersburg, but they do have the option of updating their voter registration for Knoxville and voting in the Knoxville election. And so while that, and then they can vote in person there in Knoxville. And while that may not necessarily help with some of those local Dyersburg elections, for this particular election, we're voting on governor. And so if you want to make sure that your vote counts as the governor in the state of Tennessee, then maybe you do want to vote in person, and maybe it makes sense for you to update your student address to where you are currently living locally in Knoxville, and then voting in person.
Will their ID, if they in UT Knoxville now, right? But say, what about their ID? What would you advise as far as their identification is concerned?
So you would have to make sure that address matches. So you would have to update. The good thing about Tennessee is even when you go to update your driver's license, you can update your driver's license to the current address where they are living in Knoxville. And while you were there, it's the Motor Voter Act that was passed many, many years ago. When you go and update your driver's license, you can also update your voter registration at the same time. So again, you do want to make sure that address on file matches where you're voting. So if as a student, sometimes they just assume that they can go in and vote, but that address does have to match. So you can't just show up to vote in Knoxville if your address is still showing as Dyersburg. And if you do want to include this, one thing that I would encourage is, if anybody is interested in how voting works, or sign up to be an election worker during early election, during election day. We are a poll watcher. There are so many things to help get you involved. Again, I started out on the counting board and did that for 5 years. If you question the legitimacy of elections, but two, if you really just want to see how the sausage is made, as I say, then be part of it. Election commissions love having volunteers come in and see, and it is really, again, it is a bipartisan thing. We have Republicans, Democrats, Independents. We have all kinds of people that are working these elections that all work together with one goal, and that is to make sure that your vote counts. So again, that's my soapbox that I'm going to get on for a minute. That again, yes, vote, but if you have an interest in this, or if you want to learn more and really see how the inner workings are, you can absolutely be an election worker, and you get paid. So it's not even free. You get paid to do it.
Well, listen, I want to see you back sometime before November the 3rd, before our general election, and just to kind of, be our coach as we exercise that voting muscle and
that's right.
Work towards self-determination. So just really would love to see you back before then, Rachel.
Oh, I would love that. This is something that I'm very passionate about. And I want to make sure, like I said, that everybody, this is something that a lot of people died, is for us to get the right to vote. And by all means, I'm very passionate about it, and I maybe the next time we won't have something so groundbreaking to talk about. It literally could be just as boring as voting.
I bet you this is just when we listen. We're gonna probably, I hope, listen to this in a few years' time and think, what in the world? Can you believe it?
Oh man,
that was history. That was history.
I hope so. I'm an avid reader, and I love historical fiction, and I specifically love historical fiction around World War II, Nazi Germany, all of these things. Again, history has not been kind as it as it should not. It has not been kind to all of that. And so I was literally talking to my kids the other day, and I was like, man, what do you think the historical fiction in this day and age is going to look like in about 10 years, 20 years?
Golly, there is no telling, Rachel.
I mean, every day it's like it's a
new.
circus. It is something. It's something. I want to go back to the days where it was just boring. Like I didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, listen, you have an amazing evening. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, man. And see you on August the 6th. That's a Thursday in Dyersburg, Tennessee at, at MacGyver's Grand Public Library at 5:30. And, this is a open welcome to everybody who would like to participate. And, but see you on the podcast before November the 3rd.
You got it. I'll be back. Can't wait.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye.
You too.